Hey all, your OS reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at the SoundPEATS Gofree2s. These are another pair of TWS wireless buds, but they're more advertised for sports because of the open design, also sometimes referred to as air conduction tech, because there isn't really a silicone tip that is all the way inserted into your ear canals, but rather it just rests on the outside, kind of similar to bone conduction, except it's still using a regular speaker or driver, so you'll be able to engage with things that are happening in addition to still listening to some music at the same time. That being said, the opposite of a design like this would be something with active noise cancellation, which requires a really tight seal to really block out external noise. So just keep that in mind. The Gofree2s actually retail for around $60, so it's actually not too expensive considering that these have high-res audio certification as well, because they have the LDAC codec that should supposedly allow more data to be transmitted via Bluetooth, getting closer to hi-fi reproduction. That being said, for a sports-oriented pair of buds, I always think that high-res certification might be a little bit on the overkill side because you'll be primarily doing this while multitasking, so maybe 100% of your attention isn't being just consumed by only listening super closely to the music. That being said, it should still improve the audio quality nonetheless, and at this price point, I'm not going to complain too much. It's using a pretty up-to-date Bluetooth 5.3 chip otherwise, and having large 16mm drivers. The battery case gives you up to 35 hours of playback time, which is quite good, and 9 hours of continuous music listening when you're just wearing them, which is also on the longer side. It's all encased in a relatively elegant looking design as well. And they also claim that these have low latency, so if you're doing things like gaming, it should still provide you with a pretty seamless connection. And they have a companion app as well that you can pair it to customize things like EQ that we'll take a closer look at in a moment. So in the packaging here, it is quite simple. We just have some of the aforementioned specs there being reiterated, and we have essentially just the Gofree2s along with a USB Type-C charging cable, and that's it, because there are no silicone tips from an open design. The case otherwise has a pretty nice soft touch rubber texture to it, making it easier to hold, although it does attract a little bit of smudges that you can just wipe down afterwards. There's just the logo there, and then Type-C for charging on the back, also accented in blue, showing you a little bit of attention to detail. Now, one aspect of this charging case that it doesn't come with, though, would be Qi wireless charging support. Otherwise, when you pop open the hinge, they will automatically turn on and start to pair with your device. There's also a quick size comparison in terms of the battery case with the Mifo 05s, which is another model that has pretty long battery life endurance. So overall, I would say these are not the smallest cases that I've ever seen, but they can still mostly slide into a coat pocket without too many issues. And ultimately, that is just to accommodate the wings, which take up a bit more space at the end of the day. And they don't have to be removed or anything when you just pop them back in for charging. There's just the SoundPEATS logo on the top of the case, and otherwise, the Gofree2s themselves are constructed out of the same kind of soft touch matte texture that we saw from the outer case, which is pretty consistent. The wing here has a nice kind of flexible membrane as well that makes them quite comfy. Back here just featuring the charging contacts as well as the driver mesh there, which is also enclosed in metal. Overall, it's a pretty simple design, but effective, and just some microphones there on the side. The SoundPEATS logo, by the way, is also touch sensitive, so you can tap there to control things like volume, play, pause. Overall, it's quite easy to control. The wing essentially fits over the outside of your ear and provides a very snug fit. Even if you are exercising, jogging, and moving around, it still stays in place. And since part of the weight is also relieved by the wing, it doesn't feel uncomfortable for longer listening sessions as well. So pretty good ergonomics. Now here's a quick look at the companion app, which we have seen in previous products from SoundPEATS. It's their universal app. But from here, you're able to quickly check on the status of the battery for the left and the right sides, although the case is not shown here on the main UI. You can also tap on the bottom here to go through the aforementioned gaming low latency mode. You can even disable the touch keys if you are trying to listen for a longer period of time continuously without being interrupted. You can also connect up to 2 devices at once simultaneously, for example, both your phone and your computer, and you can switch back and forth between those audio sources based on what's being played back. Furthermore, there is on the top the adaptive EQ function. We have seen this previously from them, but it's quite similar to Hear ID and what Anchor Soundcore offers as well. Basically, it produces a hearing test as you're wearing it. You're able to say yes or no, are you able to hear certain frequencies being played back, resulting in a more curated and personalized hearing experience that will, in most cases, improve the audio experience. But if you don't like this, you can also go into some preset EQs without doing that hearing test. That takes about 1 minute to set up. You can go into a kind of SoundPEATS Classic. Alternatively, you can go into bass boosted, bass reduced, rock and roll, pop, classical, treble enhanced, if you prefer, for other genres of music that you're listening to, as well as a more customized slider here that you can use to tweak the frequency ranges yourself if you want more granular control over these aspects. And firmware updates can also be pushed over from the companion app as well. So relatively quite simple. I will also mention that under Bluetooth settings on your phone, this is actually where if you tap on the device, you're able to select whether you want the best sound quality or the most stable connection. So it is kind of interesting that this isn't tucked in the app per se, but rather under your regular Bluetooth settings on the phone. And from here, for example, you can turn on the LDAC functionality to provide you with, again, more high-res certification. So maybe to consolidate everything together, SoundPEATS should just add that mode as well in their own app to make it easier to manage everything in one place. But overall, good enough. Now, when it comes to actual sound quality, I was also pleasantly surprised. Now, a weakness of these open design headphones I've tried in the past has been historically a little bit weaker bass, because seal is really important when it comes to these smaller buds if you're trying to feel more impact. But because of the really large drivers, even if they aren't resting all the way in there, you still feel a nice kick and rumble when it comes to drum beats. So as a result, it still feels very energetic as you're listening to music for pop, rock, EDM, and the like, and overall sufficient clarity as well for things like vocals and mids. They had plenty of textures and nuances in the track that I was listening to. I felt actually quite impressed by. And similarly with the overall pretty high-end Bluetooth chip that they're using, there was very little hints of any distortion or static in the background. Everything is actually quite clean. Even if I was walking a little bit further away from the phone, there was no interruptions or disconnections either. So all in all, it left a very pleasant listening experience, especially as a pair of single driver buds. Now, at the end of the day, if you are a true audiophile, you can perhaps spend a little bit more even in SoundPEATS' own collection. They have certain models which have dual drivers, which can produce even more detail using the built-in speakers. That being said, those are a more conventional design, which aren't going to be open at the end of the day, and more suited for just sitting down and listening really closely to the music. And therefore, as a pair of sports-oriented buds, which are primarily going to be, again, getting you energized, ready to move around if you're going to the gym or jogging, I think they really fit the bill, delivering good enough audio quality when it comes to clarity as well as volume, that it's actually a very good competitor to offerings that we've seen from Soundcords, as well as even the Powerbeat Pros from essentially Apple that sell for many times the price, which offer, again, a very similar design, but in this case, it still has slightly more impressive specs, including that technically high-res certification, even if I do think perhaps it's a little overkill for a category like this. Nonetheless, they work well, again, with strong battery life and also pretty satisfying sound. So if you are after kind of that bone conduction style, open headphone experience, and I think this is actually a very strong contender, especially at this price point, very well built and overall good audio performance to boot. You can check out more details if interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the SoundPEATS Gofree2.